Welcome to A Wealthy Life, the podcast where we turn clarity into confidence and help you make powerful, calm decisions with your money. I'm your host, Vicky Wishay, and today's topic is all about reclaiming your power, your financial power. It's about understanding how the truly wealthy don't budget, they make a strategic financial plan. And don't get me wrong, inside that strategic financial plan is the fact that they know their numbers and they have created a budget. But it's about thinking beyond limiting yourself. It's somewhere in all of this stuff around money management as a term has really got a boring label and it's considered stressful. It's another job for you to do. It's not something that you are happy to do. And that's just crazy because I'm here to tell you that when you learn how to manage your money in your way, it actually becomes a source of strength. And what I want to do today is explore how money management can actually become a system that gives you first the clarity to understand where you are, to save you time, and to actually help you create the life, a wealthy life that you actually want to live. So let's start making money management your new superpower. Okay, so most financial advice out there is somewhere between a mystery, bordering on get rich quick schemes, or simply maybe wasn't made for someone like you. And that's why traditional money advice doesn't really work because it doesn't resonate with us. You're so busy juggling a career or a business, family responsibilities, or maybe personal goals, just life in general, that when someone tells you to track every penny, to live on a strict budget, to give up your lattes, you just switch off. And I don't blame you. And I hope that you've never felt that you got that message from me. You don't just need control, you need clarity. And when you have clarity, then you automatically start to control because you see where there is slippage, leakage in your money. And developing a system that fits your life is so much better than trying to force on one that adds more stress to it. So let's think about clarity for a moment. Clarity is understanding your personal position and understanding why having greater financial focus in your own life will make it better and not more stressful. Why having more financial focus will enable you to feel safe, secure. And of course, this is especially important for women, and yes, you men as well. And as I keep pointing out, it's because women, I believe, and tell me if I get it wrong, need to hear this. Men, I believe, already get this somewhere deep in their core. They've mastered the financial provider role. They're out there bringing home the bacon. That's it. They're the hunter-gatherers. But girls, we weren't meant to be reliant on a man to make our lives better, to make our lives more secure. We can do it ourselves. And the real benefit of this is when women take back their financial power and they actually start engaging with money, they make their relationships easier because many of the financial providers, typically men in a relationship, the men that I talk to are absolutely drowning in the pressure of providing. And actually, what they really want to do is spend time with their families. And so they're stuck in a role that isn't making them happy. And quite a lot of the female partners or the family nurturers are in a role where they're disempowered and actually still stressful. So both of you are stressful for no reason whatsoever. And we're on episode 170. I think I said this is 172. I started talking about this nearly 3 years ago now, episode 1 and 2. And I keep coming back to it. And the reason I keep coming back to it is because I'm still talking to people who are experiencing this same situation. The man having to go out to work or the high earner going out to work to bring in the income, feeling they're all alone in that role, feeling stressed, missing the family, not enjoying life, while the partner who's taking on the role of nurturing the family, typically the mother, is in a position where they're disempowered, disengaged from money, and still stressful and not enjoying life. So let's come up with a way to shift this for you. And I've got 3 shifts for you here to really start making money work for you so that you feel empowered. Because making money management feel good and work well is so easy and so empowering. So let's look at those 3 topics, and I'll go through them reasonably quickly because if you've listened to me long enough, you'll know quite a few of these. Now, whether you've implemented them, whether they resonate with you, that's going to be different for every listener. But I hope what you got out of like the last 2 episodes is that what I'm doing at the moment is weaving money management and mindset together so that you can see that they're linked. And that's really what the first shift is about. This idea of guilt to ownership of your own money, to start by stop beating yourself up for past mistakes. You've got to understand every decision, financial or otherwise, teaches you something. And by looking for the lesson, you don't then have to dwell in the guilt. You know, I must mess up in my life at some point on something. I don't know. I'm going to go with once a week. It could be daily. I don't really consider it this way round. But whether it's I've made a mistake with planting my tomatoes, or in a conversation that I've had, or in whether I've done the jobs that I wanted to do in the right order, or in cooking a meal. You know, there's always these little things. You remember when I talked about the Jenga bricks back in episode 170, you know, that you can start stacking these, you can start beating yourself up on these. But if you actually look at every decision, good or bad, successful or less successful, as an opportunity to learn how to improve and be in that set of mindset, that positive searching for how can I improve my life without making it, you know, a whip. Please don't start doing that. You know, then you can create something that shifts you from a position of disempowerment because you're hung up in something called guilt and stress and negativity to something more important where you're taking ownership for the decisions that you make. I have a belief that everything in my life is a result of the decisions that I have made or the decisions that I have not made. But I have created this life. And if this life is the life that I want to live generally, then yay me, because all the decisions that I have been making and decisions that I have chosen not to make have led me to this point. The moment that you can start to own your money story, you can start to shift it. So I'm not saying to you to apply this to absolutely everything. Start applying it when you notice that you are having these negative or guilty thoughts around money, and then let it drift out into the rest of your life, because you can re-script your life. You can decide the life that you want to live. You can decide the story that you're part of and be the author of your story, not a bit player in someone else's story. So number 2, this is that balance between micromanaging and strategic oversight. Now, I will say to you, and I'm going to contradict myself here, that you don't need to track every transaction. And the way that I'm going to uncontradict myself is say forever. I do recommend getting up close and personal, deep and dirty with your spending habits for at least 3 months. And you'll know when you've done it enough, because you'll go, right, okay, I can see the pattern now. I understand what I'm doing. So I notice that when I'm stressed, my shopping habits change. I notice that, quite frankly, actually any emotion, if I get overexcited, I'll buy too many plants. And if I get slightly more stressed, if work's busy, then I'll change my shopping habits. You'll start to see a pattern. And it might take you a month or 2, it might take you 3 or 4 months, but you need to get through this analysis phase, because after that, you can create yourself a system to manage your financial processes. Now, this comes in two ways. One, if, like me, you find that there is a emotional context to the way that you spend, and I think that is true. Certainly, I'm going to go for all women. This could be me being very ist again. I try to think about Bob, and I don't really believe that he is an emotional spender. He just spends completely differently to me. Maybe it's because he doesn't love tomatoes as much as I do. I don't know. But think about your spending habits. Do you have, how about this one, a habitual habit? You know, every morning you get the train to work, every morning you buy yourself a large latte and a bun. Is that conducive to your financial health and to your physical health? And why don't you just buy yourself one of those travel mugs and take the coffee? And actually, you could probably invest, if you think how much those Starbucks or any other coffees cost you on an annual basis, you know, 5 a week for 48 weeks of the year, you could probably fund one of those fancy coffee machines at home, buy yourself a mug, and actually take your own home coffee and not feed into a global corporation that doesn't pay its taxes. But let's not go down that line. It's about looking at, when have you been suckered into something? How many times do you click on an advert on social media? How many times are you buying tech? How many times do you buy music anymore? Isn't that odd? We don't buy music anymore. I remember we used to buy records all the time, showing my age again. But you're looking for those habits. Do you shop with a shopping list, or do you just wander around and put anything? Do you plan your meals? There's all sorts of stuff that you can start to look at when you're in that analysis phase. And then you create this process that will manage and make your finances easier. And that's why I recommend that joint direct debit account that handles all the routine bills. Then all you have to do is manage your personal spending. You'll have been aware of your personal spending habits, and all you'll have is a subset of your wages that is your personal spending that you then track. That you've got some longer term savings in there, you've got some investments in there, and of course, you've got your fun money. If that's all you're thinking about, that's where the fun is, isn't it? That's where the joy is. The routine managing of bills, if you can systemize that, and then all you're doing with your money that's left in your personal account, once it's been shifted over to pay for the bills, is essentially, I call it fun money. Longer term savings for holidays and things that you want to do, birthdays, celebrations, money that you're putting away for your investment. And of course, in the early stages, that resilience pot that I spoke about in the last couple of podcasts. And then what's left is fun. That's where your tomato money, your coffee money, your getting your nails done money sits. And you keep an eye on that. That's enjoyment. Then you see what you're spending your money on is giving you real pleasure. And that's how you move from micromanaging to a more strategic view of your money. And all of this is about number three. It's about recognizing that money is a tool. It's about leading your money, not letting your money lead you. And when you understand what your money's doing, you can lead it with confidence. You can make decisions about your future, not just about today. And once you master that minutiae of the regular monthly bills, then you can start to make plans for the life that you want to live. You can evaluate those short-term habits I talked about. You can plan for more exciting expenditure like holiday savings and investments. We all need joy in our lives, but that is built on a foundation of financial security and resilience. And those three steps will take you there, to recognize that guilt serves no purpose, that everything is there to teach you a lesson, to rewrite your story, to do that initial analysis and then move to strategic oversight of your money, and to be in a position where you are determining how your money works for you. That leadership, thinking of every pound as an employee that you're going to put to work. Some of them are put to work to give you joy in your life. Some of them are put to work for joy in the future. Some of them are put to work for financial security. And of course, we've already automized the money that works to just keep a roof over your head. That's taken care of. Now, in order to make this work for you, that's the mindset bit of it. But in order to make that work for you, what I really want to do here is, I don't know whether this is a dashboard or a system. I think really it's about key data points that I want you to look at. And this isn't about having 20 spreadsheets, because, you know, I love a spreadsheet and I'm not asking you to do that because I know not everybody enjoys that. But I want to take you through 4 things that if you can implement them from today, from this weekend, this month, will make a dramatic difference to your life. So let's look at them. Overview, we're going to look at your cash flow, money in, money out, debt, because some of you might be carrying debt, investments, because all of you need to be working in that direction, and goals, because that's where we're linking in the mindset with the practical activities. So let me go back to number 1, cash flow. I've already said this in this podcast, and I'm going to keep saying it. This is where you check what's coming in and what's going out. And I've said to you earlier, you do this at least 3 months in detail. And then what you're looking to do is manage for exception. Now you can download the Smart Woman's Ultimate Guide to Money Investing, that course that I've got on YouTube designed specifically for women. Or you can go along to the Wealthy Life community and download the Wealth Tracker, which is an Excel spreadsheet. And it will get you to do it in a level of detail that you are maybe slightly uncomfortable with, that does take a bit of time, but it's worth it. You're doing this for a reason. And I think that's where I keep coming back to that mindset. If you're listening to this, if you keep listening to these episodes, it's got to be because this either interests you, it's something you know you need to do. And what I want to do is, if you're not taking action, I really want to push you over that edge and say to you, if the analysis just took 3 months of your life from now for the next 3 months, and all it required was maybe an hour a month, maybe the very first time you do it, because it's a little bit new to you, it might take you a little bit longer because you've got to go and think, well, hold on a second, what bank accounts have I got? What credit cards am I using? So you've got that initial, finding where you're at. But once you've done that, the second month you're going, right, I need to download statements from these 2 bank accounts and these 3 credit cards, or whatever it is, or this savings account, whatever it is that you're doing. And you just pull those documents out onto your computer, and then you're just going through one by one, and you're going, right, that goes in there, that goes in there, that goes in there. I know what I've spent. I know what I've spent. Oh, what's that? That was unexpected. And you'll already start to be noticing things, and you go, oh, that was unexpected. Yes, I remember this is birthday month. That's why I'm spending more. And then what you start to do, which is what I do, is I've got my credit card on an app. Yes, Vicky has an app. And I know how much I expect that credit card to be a month. If that starts to sneak towards that limit in the middle of the month, if we're at the 14th of the month and I'm already hitting my limit, I will go through the detail and go, why? Why is this out of proportion with what it should be? That's the exception management that you can do. That's nanoseconds. That's opening your app, having a look and going, oh yeah, everything's fine. Opening your app, having a look, oh, I'm a bit ahead of budget here. Why is that? Oh, birthday month or Christmas, or we just paid for that holiday in advance, whatever it is. Cash flow and getting involved with it starts to change your mind and makes everything easier. Then in the future, when you've got past this analysis stage, you're looking at, once a week, just checking your apps for your credit cards or your balances. All of your money is automated, and all you're looking at is making sure that you're keeping your savings are growing, your pot for the future is growing, whatever that is for your birthdays or Christmases or holidays, and your monthly spending is within its boundaries. Perfect. Now look at you. You're leading your money. That's the cash flow that you need to be aware of. And for some of you, there's debt. Now, for everyone, there is debt in the form of our houses. That's the most obvious thing that we want to look at. Debt being what you owe and understanding what it costs you and how you can reduce that cost. So sticking with the mortgage for a minute, do you know what your mortgage rate is? Do you know when that rate ends and when your mortgage ends? Now, these are 2 different numbers. So you will have a mortgage rate that has been fixed for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. That is a period at which, at the end of it, this rate will change. Do you know what it will change on to? And where we've had certain economic changes in the UK, a lot of people had a problem during that trust period where interest rates rocketed high. We've also got a period at the moment where interest rates are dropping. What you really want to understand, and this is what I do with all of my mortgages, is I know 6 months in advance to when a mortgage is going to end. And bear in mind, I've not just got a home mortgage, I've got all my property mortgages. I speak with my mortgage broker and we secure whatever the rate is at the moment, we secure that rate 6 months out from when my rate will change. And then what I do is check 3 months later, and then I check 1 month before the rate's going to end. And I did this on one of my properties, and I've told you this before, and I was due to get remortgage in 6 months' time. We had the whole trust thing just about to happen. I didn't know that. I secured my mortgage 6 months out and I got 3 point something or other. Then the trust chaos happened, interest rates rocketed. And when we got to the point where I would have been considering a remortgage about a month out, the interest rates were already at 6%. And I had a mortgage offer in my hand at 3 point something. So I completed on that new mortgage rate of 3 point something. And that made a massive difference. So many people now are still struggling with high rate mortgages, either on their residentials or their investment portfolios, because they don't plan. So knowing what your rate is and knowing when that ends is really important. But also understanding the full term of the mortgage. This is where the money has been lent to you based on your age. So you might have a mortgage that lasts 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years. That almost is less important if it's not about your investments, it's about your home, because you're going to carry on living here. And you'll probably, on your residential house, have got something called a capital and repayment mortgage. And what this means is that you are paying down capital, some of the debt, and also some of the interest. And so the goal is, providing you don't remortgage or move house, that over that longer term, the 10, 15, 20 years that your mortgage has been granted for, subject to the interest rate changing as you move through, you will be in a position where the entire debt, the amount that you borrowed to buy your house, will be paid off. You've effectively been paying your house or buying your house on a monthly basis. That's fine. If you have investment properties, it's a different perspective. But understanding when that term ends on your residential is quite important. So in the old days, when I was originally a mortgage lender, I think that would have been maybe 30 years ago. Can't be that long. Can't be that old. Anyway, however long ago, it was a long time ago. We wouldn't give a mortgage to someone over 60, 65 years of age, because what we were saying was, you're working and you need your wages in order to pay your mortgage back. You're going to retire at, let's say, 65, and therefore you can't have a mortgage beyond that, because how will you pay your mortgage payment? But nowadays, with the cost of houses, and you think of the cost of a house 20, 30 years ago and the cost of a house now, they've changed astronomically. So if you have moved houses within the last 20 years or even the last 10 years, the house that you now have will be a lot more expensive. And how do you afford that monthly mortgage payment? Well, by making it so that you pay it off over a longer period. How old will you be when your mortgage ends? So really understanding that is crucial. Now, there is a caveat here for anybody thinking about property investing, and that's to be aware that your residential mortgage is the cheapest money you can access. And so I do speak to a lot of people who want to overpay their residential mortgages and not have the burden of a residential mortgage. And in some ways, I can understand that, but that's not investor thinking. And I'm just saying that, just plopping it out there. Now, that was the easiest and most obvious form of debt. The other, and I am just going to briefly mention this, if I can ever do briefly, is your uncleared credit cards, etc. If you've got any uncleared credit cards, if you're carrying credit card debt, it absolutely must be cleared or transferred over to a zero rate card. If you've got loan agreements, All of this should be listed, and there is a spreadsheet for you over in the community where you can write all this down. But you should record all of this so that you've got that information at your fingertips. If you've got other loan agreements, whether this is on a car or a piece of furniture for the house, it could be on a phone, you really need to understand the interest rates. It's not the amount of debt. I remember working with a couple and we listed out all their debts, and their first instinct was to pay down the most expensive. And I explain a way of clearing debt in the course that's on YouTube for you. But essentially, it's about the interest rate. You always clear the most expensive money first. And it doesn't matter how much you owe, it's costing you the most. That's what you have to get rid of. And once you've paid that down, you can then use the payments that were going towards that to then start focusing on the next most expensive debt. And whether you clear it, whether you overpay it, whether you save in advance and pay it at the end, however you do it, you need to be focusing on this. You must track your debt like you track your income, like you track your expenses, because unmanaged debt will cripple you financially. It is the hole in your boat that will sink you. Now let's move to something more positive, which is your investments. This is what you own. Bear in mind, that doesn't include your residential property, because for most of you, the bank will own a good portion of it. But it's understanding what you own and what it's doing for you and what you want more of. So it's about really examining your investment performances. Have you got a shares portfolio? Have you got a savings account? Have you got investment properties? Have you got crypto? Who out of all of your investments is performing the best? What is giving you the highest return on your investment for the lowest risk? Now, we have just seen in the early part of 2025 dramatic changes in the stock market, thanks to the actions and the words of a leader on another part of the planet. And we have seen the value of the stock market and therefore your shares drop dramatically. And I'm not going to bother to get into all this is designed for those that understand and can read the signs to make shed loads of money. I'm just talking to us, the ordinary people who had our money in pensions, who had our money in shares ISAs. And I just think at the end of it, when you look at it, yes, property prices go up and down, but as long as your property is well maintained and remains rented, you've got that stability. You would not see thousands, if not millions of pounds wiped off the rent roll in the UK. You just wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see all of a sudden rents just drop so dramatically, where you have seen that in your share portfolio. And the other thing is, and I've always said this, the reason I invest in property is because it basically gives me monthly cash flow that replaces my wages. And my investments need to be the scaffolding that support my life. And if you think of it that way round, just to use that property metaphor again, your investments need to be the bridge or the scaffolding that take you from where you are now to where you want to be, from your current lifestyle to the lifestyle that you want to live. Now, whether you're planning for retirement, early retirement, scaling back on work, changing a job, having a child, growing a family, whatever it is, your investments need to replace your wages so that you can do that. They need to provide the income that you need. And if you do not understand the role, I think that's the best way to think of it, is the role that your investments are playing in your life, then that's going to give you a real burden to be carrying, because you'll have money secured in places and you really don't understand what it's doing. Therefore, how can you be that financial leader and make the rest of your money really work for you when you don't know what the first bit of your money is doing? Okay. And this is literally the sort of call I have with people on a daily basis. So if you have got investments and you really can't make sense out of what I'm talking to you about in this podcast, this is your opportunity to book a call. And the last bit that I want to look at in these points is goals. whether they're short goals, medium goals, long-term priorities and targets. This can be a challenge for some people, but let's start with the question. What would you do if you never had to work another day just to pay the bills? And then think of that question and answer it this way. If I didn't have to work just to pay the bills, I would do X on a daily basis, Y on a weekly basis, Z on a monthly basis. And every so often I would do this, and then I would do that when I feel like it. So you've got X, Y, Z, this and that. And in a sense, this is a variation on the happy calendar that I've spoken to you about before, having the calendar and planning out the joy in your life and then working out how you can fit work around it. And the only reason you're really going to work, unless it's something you absolutely adore, is to make the money to live the happy stuff that you want. Now, if I explain my answer to this using X, Y, Z, this and that, if I didn't have to work just to pay the bills, I would cold water swim daily. I would see my grandchildren every week. I would take a holiday or a mini break on a monthly basis. I would grow my tomatoes every year and have friends and family around to have adventures and fun whenever I felt like it. That would be my XYZ, this, that, and the other. And that's my life. I do swim at the moment 5 times a week. I do see my grandchildren every week. We do take holidays and mini breaks whenever we want. I do grow my tomatoes and my strawberries and everything else. That's my passion when I'm not scuba diving. And I get to have great adventures when I feel like it. And why? Because I have done all these things that I am suggesting to you. I know my income and expenses. I know what debt I've got, what's good debt, what's not good debt. I don't have any bad debt. I only have good debt. I know how much it's costing me. I know it's costing me at the best possible rate. I manage all of that. I have goals and I have investments. And yes, I do still work. Look at me here doing a podcast. I'm about to go swimming in a couple of hours, but I'm still going to do this podcast first. But I work because I love it. I work because I'm passionate about sharing this message with you. I'm passionate about wanting to help families first, women, of course, men, of course, I love you too. Understand that money is a tool. It is a source of stress for so many people. And I think that really my passion was crystallized during those periods of lockdown when I was having calls from people in tears because of their money situations. And for a lot of them, that stress was purely the unknown, purely fear. And when we walked through everything that they had, they were fine. They could breathe. There was one or two people, literally out of hundreds of phone calls that I took during that period that were genuinely in a tricky position. And that was probably because of previous decisions that they'd made, which was fine. They now were learning from that. But the majority of people are fine financially if they work out where that hole is and they plug it, if they've got a hole. And the rest of the time, the investments are the sail that push their boat forward. It's great. But the same thing here is, why do I work? I work around my X, Y, Z, this and that. That's in my happy calendar first, and then I work around it. And I bet you wish that when you were at school, they had taught you to build a life based on what do you want to do first? What's going to give you joy? What's going to give you pleasure? Brilliant. How much is that going to cost? Okay. How much do you need for living expenses? Well, quite frankly, if I'm having all this fun, I'll have this much living expenses. Well, let's look at your living expenses plus your fun expenses. That's how much you earn. How many days have you got to earn it in? Right. This is the job you need to do. And off you go. Each of these data points enables you to make decisions. They're not about judging. They're about helping you make informed decisions about the life that you want to live and how you can fund that. And I love this. I wish I could change the education system so that every child was asked, every young person was asked. And of course, it's going to change. What you wanted to do when you were a kid was probably drive trains, fly planes, or play with the adults. And then you got older, you wanted to do this, that, and the other. But what if we had that as a question we were always asking ourselves, what do we want to do and how can we afford to live that life? Just flip it the other way around. Not, this is what I'm earning and I don't have fun when I earn it. This is all I can afford to live as a life. Flip it the other way around. And I am just going to come back to two more things for you here. One is this importance of automation. The secret to financial peace is automating what you can automate. Set up those standing orders, set up your savings rules, even make a recurring calendar appointment for you to do that diary check-in of your accounts. Don't leave anything to trust. Take this all out of your head and just put it in a system, because every decision you make that is automated saves you time, saves you energy, saves you emotional willpower, and that frees you to focus on what matters most. Loving life, enjoying your family, having a great business if you've got a great business, living your life on purpose. The things that I talked about in the Orange Book, the Wealthy Retirement Plan. What's your mission? What's the multi-generational experience that you're going to have in life with your family? How are you going to make memories? And then the means. What are the means to enable this? What are the investments that will produce a monthly income so you don't have to work? Or what is the work that you will do that will generate the income that gives you the joy? And imagine going to work every day knowing that every hour that you work generates enough money that you can spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours swimming or growing your tomatoes or playing golf or music or painting. To know that, to flip that round. So automation gives you the consistency that you need and takes away the need for motivation. You don't have to motivate yourself then to pay the bills. They're done automatically. And I do recommend you start with that good old Excel spreadsheet, because that process really interacts with your conscious awareness. It brings to the fore your spending habits. And once you're consciously aware and consciously involved in what you're spending, then everything else becomes easier. And those spending habits are conscious and everything else is automated. When you know your financial position and you understand your habits, your money story, and your values, which are also important parts of this picture, then you can just be completely in control of your money and your spending habits and your life. And here's a simple ritual I ask every client to do, and I'm going to give this to you on a monthly basis. So, number one, check in on those 4 data points I spoke about: the cash flow, your income and your expenses. What debt have you got and how's it performing? What investments have you got and how are they performing? And of course, what are your goals? How are you performing towards your goals? Are you doing those things that you said that you want to do? Not going to the gym that you have to, but actually what you really enjoy is going for a walk in the woods. Well, do that instead. Anything that gives you joy. And are you celebrating success? This is a really important thing. Yes, you're going to do the check-ins, which is the work, but you also need to celebrate the success, even if there's small wins to start off with. Really acknowledge what you're doing well, and maybe some of those things you're only just doing a little bit better, but that's important. Acknowledge that you have had a monthly check-in with your 4 data points. Acknowledge that you are managing your income and expenses better. Acknowledge that your debt is reducing. Anything. Look for small wins and make sure that on a monthly basis that you are celebrating. First, congratulating yourself in a verbal, speaking it or thinking it way, but actually doing something. Maybe don't congratulate yourself on saving money by then going out and spending more money, but by doing something that gives you some joy, by taking some time out for yourself, because now you've automated your bills, you've got a bit more time on your hand. And what I would also do here is set a clear intention for the month ahead. When you've done that check-in, and I love this because I love goals to be achievable, so keep them small, keep them going, because when you set small goals and you achieve them and then you celebrate, you've got the motivation to set another one. So set a small intention for the month ahead. I've looked at my data points. This is how they've changed for last month. This is how I'd like them to change for next month. And then check in next month, automated in your diary, so you don't have to think about it. You've achieved that. Way, look at me, I'm achieving the goals that I've set. Celebrate that, and that enables you to feel like you can go on. And I tell you that it doesn't take long for this to become an automated process. The idea of just checking and celebrating and setting another goal, it just becomes part of who you are. This practice builds trust in yourself. And when you trust yourself with money, you are unstoppable. So the whole point of this is that money management isn't a chore. It's your superpower. It gives you the visibility and the calm control that, combined with that right structure, makes money management easy every month. And I want to, as I always do, leave you with 3 wishes to make your life a little better. Number 1, as I've already said, you don't need to track everything. But power comes from clarity, not overzealous control. You're just going to do it for 3 months. And then all you're going to do is, once you've done this system, is just easily manage those data points I mentioned to you. That's, if you like, that's your leadership information. That's going to help you make informed decisions. So you don't need to track everything. You just need to decide on managing your data points. Now, automation isn't lazy. This is the way to leverage your time. Every smart system in the world is leveraging something. And if you can create a system that frees up your time and your energy for the things that really matter most in your life, then that's really empowering. And money confidence is built. It's not something that's inherited. You could have had a very wealthy family and not feel comfortable with money because maybe they took care of everything and you didn't. No one, strong sentence here, but no one was born just being good with money. Maybe some of you have an innate skill with maths, and of course, then that doesn't always translate. You become confident with money by engaging with it, by planning it, by making decisions on how you spend it. It's a tool that is yours for the mastering. Now, if you want help with any of that, I've already mentioned it. You'll see the links in the show notes. You can go along to YouTube and download the Smart Woman's Ultimate Guide to Money and Investing. Please subscribe. Please give me a like. Please leave a comment and let me know that you're there. And you'll be able to follow that link. Or if you're one of my male listeners, then check out the Wealthy Life community. There, it's completely free, and there are so many resources in there. That's where you'll find the full wealth tracker. And as always, please, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend. Let's create a world where we all feel empowered and financially prepared, at peace with our money, so that we can become a family that saves together, a community that saves together and manages their money well without the stress, so that life becomes more joyful. This is A Wealthy Life. My name's Vicky Wishay, and I will see you next week. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Thank you.